What's going on, guys? So, as you know by now, if you've been following this channel a little bit, I've had my Maserati 4200 with the Cambiocorsa transmission for just about 6 months, and I wanted to make this video. Actually, I wanted to make this video a while ago, but I wanted to have some time with the car so I could really, you know, see the good and the bad and everything, and kind of give you guys like my honest thoughts about the transmission. This whole video is dedicated to the stupid transmission, or, you know, as you guys would call it, the stupid transmission. Honestly, I don't really have that much of a problem with it. I told you guys in a previous video that you can pick up a clean one of these in the United States for typically under $20,000. This particular car was $8,000. You know, this one's got a lot of miles on it, and the sellers were kind of terrified of doing anything to it. So that was kind of why I got it so cheap. They got it from auction, and they really had no idea what they were doing. And that's what led to the deal here, because I did know what I was doing, or at least, you know, I thought I knew what I was doing. But, so basically, I've said before that, you know, these cars are cheap in America, but in other countries, they're not all that cheap. There's some countries where these cars are actually just about 6 figures. You know, there's some people that are going to sell them for $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. There's a lot of range on these cars, and at least the values. And I'm not really going to get too deep into that specifically, just because I don't really know. But the point is that people in different countries are kind of letting these cars sit in different parts of the market because of the prices. You know, a lot of people, you know, they think these cars are built by Ferrari, and, you know, well, you know, it definitely has that cool sound. It's not entirely true. You know, it definitely is like Ferrari spirited, because, you know, I've driven both now. I can kind of attest to that. It's quirky, it's really tossable. I think this is actually a really fun car to drive. In fact, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I think this car is actually a little more engaging to drive than my Aston Martin DB9 was. And I guess that's not going to be that hard to believe, although both of them are GT, you know, class cars. This is a GT, the Aston Martin was a GT. You know, the Aston was just a bigger car, a little heavier, but, you know, either way, this is definitely more oriented toward driving experience. This car is a lot more fun to drive, I guess. It's more engaging. The Aston was a little more cushy, but I mean, you could still throw that thing into corners. But anyway, back to the transmission on this thing. So here in the United States, there's no shortage of people ragging on these Cambiocorsa or Duo Select if you have a Quattroporte transmission. There's people in forums that say bad things. There's people that make videos that make lots of views that also kind of give this thing a bad rap. But I don't really think that those are fair takes. And the reason that is you know, these use the same gearbox shifting actuation system as the Ferrari 360s did. It's made by Maserati Morelli. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that correctly. And the transmission computers are actually interchangeable between these Maseratis and I think Ferrari 360s. I'm pretty sure it's Ferrari 360. That would probably make the most sense. So the transmission control units are completely interchangeable. They are tuned a little bit differently, but, you know, the part number is, I believe, I guess the part number wouldn't be the same, but it's the same computer, it's the same pigtail, and you can just swap them in there. I'm actually really curious how a Challenge Stradale TCU would work on this car, because that's a common modification people do on the 360s to get them to shift faster. And, you know, this thing already shifts pretty quickly when it wants to. But anyway, yeah, so people rag on these cars online, and they say that, you know, they're really slow in between shifts, and you know, they're really quirky to drive, and they kind of lurch you forward. It's not really true. I don't really know where theirs came from. most of these people, I feel like, were driving the car like not in sport mode, and that's not something that you're really going to want to do on any F1 transmission. I think maybe the biggest difference between the Ferrari and this is this actually does more or less have a comfort mode for the transmission. And when it's in that comfort mode, yeah, it spends a pretty good time in between gear shifts. It was meant to, it's like a Sunday drive taking grandmom to church. That's basically what happens when you take this car out of sport mode. You know, it's a really slow shift, but even then it's not like clunky or anything. I'm actually going to kind of demonstrate these to you guys later in the video because I want you to see what this car can do. So we're gonna kind of get into all of that. My goal with this video is to let you walk away from this and be like, wow, that's not so bad. I mean, it shifts really quickly at higher RPMs. You can double downshift it just like you can the Ferrari. It goes right in. Just now I was in 6th and I double downshifted at the 4th, and you know, it just did it. No problem. If I shut up while I shift, you guys could probably hear it. I'm in 4th now. Now we're in 2nd. You know, this car costs $20,000, $30,000 to buy, assuming you bought a nice one and you didn't buy one with, you know, 100,000 miles on it like I did. That means that, you know, you spend $30,000 on a car. We'll say 20. Most of these cars are around $20,000 in the United States. You spend $20,000 on the car, and let's say you needed a clutch. A clutch on this car is going to cost anywhere from $4,000 to $7,000, depending on how many while you're there expenses are found. I think the part alone, just the clutch and the pressure plate, is $2,000. If we're comparing this car to a Ferrari that it shares the same gearbox actuation system with, it's really not that bad because it's the same as the Ferrari. You know, the only difference here obviously is, you know, the Ferrari, you know, you can get a 360 now for like $85,000, and you know, it's kind of expected that you would have high running costs on a car that costs $85,000, and to have that same expense on a car that costs much less, I'm pretty sure that's kind of where people have the problem. And I think this car makes the most sense if you look at it as, I'm gonna cringe when I say this, but honestly it's kind of true. You kind of have to treat this car as if it was like a 4-seater Ferrari. All of a sudden it makes a little more sense. All right, we're in 2nd gear. I don't understand how people say that's like slow, and you know, I think it shifts great. I think it's really fun. At high RPMs, it literally is like just about instant. It goes right in, no slippage, no drama or anything like that. Like, it literally just slams gears at higher RPMs, and I love it. Obviously, that was in sport mode. And all right, just because you're probably curious, I am gonna actually show you briefly what happens when you take it out of sport mode. I'm gonna downshift it a couple times first though. We're in 6 right now. 4th, I'm gonna slow down here. 3rd, we're gonna take it in 2nd. I'm gonna take it out of sport mode, and I'm gonna stop talking. So there were 2 things I did differently there. Obviously, I wasn't, you know, completely flooring it or anything like that, and I wasn't shifting high up on the, you know, the tachometer. But I wanted to do that to kind of show you guys, you know, the different kind of experience you can get when you shift this thing and you drive it. It's kind of a totally different car. At lower RPMs, you take it out of sport mode. All of a sudden it kind of becomes more comfortable to drive, and it's less, you know, jerky. But at like lower RPMs, it really just kind of like it's really like lackadaisical in between the gears. I don't think it's terrible though. Like, I honestly don't. I think it's a little awkward. I think I'm gonna say it's a little awkward, but I wouldn't say that it's like bad or anything. I really don't know where that came from, with people saying these were bad. Right here, 3rd gear. right in. This thing shifts as fast as the Ferrari does. Maybe a little bit slower just because of that tune, but I mean, you know, you can't shift a manual that fast, and it's fun. It just does it. Like, it's really exciting. The car will actually, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, these cars do have like an automatic mode where, like, if you just don't want to deal with the paddles, you can just put it in auto. And if you have it in sport mode, it actually will shift that fast. You know, obviously at the higher rev range, you know, like here, I'm going to put the car in sport mode. Here, there's someone turning in front of me. All right, here, we're going to shift it at 5,000. That was with just some moderate gas. It still shifts pretty quickly. It's not, you know, it doesn't really jerk me forward or anything. Really, there's just no issue with it. All right, guys, I'm going to kind of give you my conclusion with this transmission and this whole car and everything. People ask me, you know, would you buy this car again? And I'd say absolutely, yeah. I'm not particularly interested in these at their full market value of like $20,000 to $30,000. That's just me personally. My personal opinion is, you know, I bought this because it was cheap, and I'm having a lot of fun with it because it was cheap. If I was going to spend, you know, bigger money on a car like that, then I would probably just spring for like an R8 or a cheap 360 or something like that. But, you know, again, those are different cars than this. This is a GT. I mean, there's plenty of different cars that, you know, you could have in the GT segment that, you know, cost around the same amount as this did, and they're going to give you less problems for, you know, like running costs and everything. You got your Jaguar XKR, Jaguar for my English viewers, Jaguar, anything else is a bit stupid, isn't it? Oh my God. But yeah, you got your Jag, you got the Aston Martin, and then, you know, you got two Aston Martins. You got the DB9, you got the Vantage, the V8 Vantage, that is. Both of those cars are not going to have as high running costs, especially if you get a manual one, and I recommend that you do. The DB9 is okay in automatic because they don't have the sequential transmission that the earlier Vanquish had. And then there's that too. I mean, you know, that's going to have way bigger problems, but you know, the Vanquish is kind of known to be an unreliable vehicle. I'm kind of curious how that would stack up against this. Not even just the transmission, but just, you know, the car in general. You know, this is more of a driver's car. The Vanquish notoriously is not much of a driver's car, but yeah, you've got plenty of options, you know, in this budget range that are going to give you less problems than this car would. And that's exactly why, in my opinion, this car hasn't really caught on. I think someday, maybe people will realize that, you know, these cars had the spirit of a Ferrari and, you know, some of the characteristics of a Ferrari, given that the transmission is pretty much the same. But I don't think people are going to ever look at this car and say, oh my gosh, this prized collector's gem. I don't think this car is ever going to be worth a ton of money, is basically what I'm saying. I do think that one day they'll go up, but it's not going to be anything crazy. It's not going to be like the Ferrari 355 nearly doubling in value in a couple years. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. That's, you know, I could be totally wrong about that, but I don't know. That's kind of where my opinion is. If you look at every past Maserati model before this, history is kind of on my side. They don't appreciate. You know, you viewers might be a little offended when I say this, but Maserati kind of makes crappy cars. They make crappy cars that are honestly fun to drive. This is a lot of fun to drive. I'm having a ton of fun with it. I just told you guys earlier I had more fun driving this than my Aston Martin DB9. That car was more fun to own. This car is more fun to drive. There's definitely a difference there, and hopefully everybody watching this is sophisticated enough to understand that. But yeah, that's more or less where I'm at with this car. But I'm having a ton of fun with it, and I really don't mind the Cambiocorsa gearbox. I think it's actually a lot of fun. For me, this was my first this is my first F1 transmission. I've driven other ones. I've driven R8s. I've driven Ferrari 360s. And, you know, they all kind of handled pretty similarly to this. And, you know, when I first, you know, got in the driver's seat of this car, I was like, wow, it's really not that bad. Everyone thinks it's terrible, and it's just not that bad. All right, so the conclusion for the conclusion. For how much this car costs, it can be a lot of fun. And I think it could be argued that anything in a similar price range to this just isn't going to have as much character as this does. So do your research when you buy cars, and I think if you understand what this car could cost to run and you're okay with that, I think that you'd have a really, really nice experience owning this thing and driving it. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Maybe this will persuade a couple people to get a Maserati 4200 with the Cambiocorsa or the manual. You know, these are great cars with the manual transmissions as well. But either way, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.